that record. All right, I want to welcome everyone to our August mentoring webinar titled School-Based Mentorship. Today with us is Jim Autrey as well as Tammy Potts. They both are on our Mentor Kansas Advisory Council, and they both run school-based mentor programs here in Kansas. And then also we have a mentor with Basehor-Linwood's program here with us today, Howie Lucas, to kind of share his perspective on being part of that program in that community. All right, for those of us here that are not quite familiar with Kansas Volunteer Commission, I just want to run over a few things. So the vision of the Kansas Volunteer Commission is to empower all Kansans to meet community needs through service. The Commission's primary role is to provide resources and leadership to support local initiatives that tackle community needs. And as a state service commission, the Commission directs effective national service programs and provides resources and training to advance volunteerism, mentoring, and civic engagement. And as you can see, we are part of the Kansas State Department of Education. All right, and here is a list of our 2023 mini grant opportunities. And so right now, the one that we have open is the Rural and Indigenous Mini Grant. That application opened on August 1st. And this grant is intended to help rural and Indigenous communities address and overcome unique challenges they may face in engaging community members. The projects may enhance initiatives already in place or developing new ones. So if you have any questions or interested in that grant or know anyone that would be, please direct them to volunteer@ksde.org for more information. Also, we are co-hosting a conference this year. We've been out of the conference game for a few years during pandemic issues and whatnot, but we're back in October in Wichita, Kansas. We are partnering with the Kansas Nonprofit Chamber, and we're hosting the first ever nonprofit and volunteerism conference. It will be at Newman University, which is located in Wichita, Kansas. The theme of the conference is Think Big, Be Bold. And over the course of the past couple of years, individuals, volunteers, and nonprofit organizations have faced unprecedented challenges. Normal was not working before the pandemic, and we want to take the lessons we've learned and the tools we implemented and carry them moving forward. So the registration does include a continental breakfast, lunch, refreshments, and a service project, as well as networking opportunities. The registration for early bird ends September 1st. And so you can go to our website to find out more information, or again, contact us at volunteer@ksde.org, and we'll be happy to send you information regarding that. Also about our webinar series, this one, as well as volunteer engagement, we host on the second Tuesday of every month at 10 a.m., as well as civic engagement is third Fridays at noon. And here are the links. And again, if you want more information on how to register, feel free to email. This is our website here, canserve.org. The best way to contact the whole commission is through volunteer@ksd.org. You're able to also invite us to present. We have to cover a number of topics, which include civic engagement or volunteerism. And then of course, follow us on social media. You can find us on all platforms just by typing in Kansas Volunteer Commission. All right, with that, I will go ahead and introduce our speakers today. All right, so this is Jim Autrey. He is the Community Mentor Program lead at Council Grove High School. Jim began his professional career as a high school music teacher for 9 years in 3 different schools in Kansas. Then he was called into the pastoral ministry, where he served in pastoral leadership for 31 years. While pastoring, he was involved in community events, even serving on the South Brown County, Kansas School Board. In 2006, Jim and his wife, Marcia, retired to Council Grove. It was in Council Grove that Jim was invited to become part of the formation of the community mentoring program in the Council Grove High School. That program began in the fall of 2007, where he served as the chair of the executive committee. He has continued in that position into present time. So welcome, Jim. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. And then we have Tammy Potts with Basehor-Linwood Mentors and CareCats. Tammy began advocating for children in 1999 when she and another volunteer founded the Basehor-Linwood Youth Friends Program. This was the first time that all classroom volunteers were required to have background screenings, training, and orientation prior to working one-on-one in small groups or in classrooms within all the district schools. From 1999 to 2013, Basehor-Linwood Youth Friends received national and statewide recognition for its outstanding and innovative support of academics and alternative education. In 2013, under Tammy's direction, the local Youth Friends Initiative became the Basehor-Linwood Mentors and CareCats program. Right. Well, thank you, Tammy, for joining us. And I would like for you, if possible, to go ahead and introduce our other guest speaker who's with your program, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. Daryl Lucas, otherwise known as Pastor Howie within our school district. Howie is an amazing mentor who has worked with children in every single building in our school district, except for the Early Learning Center. And it wouldn't surprise me if we don't figure a way to get him over there as well. But he is someone who has worked with children, following them from a very young age all the way up through the elementary and middle school years and on into high school years, and working with them one-on-one. He's worked in small groups, and he's also done the classroom rotation. His main focus has been making sure that kids connect with the community and that they feel involved and included. And without further ado, Mr. Howie, yep, if you'll say hello, that would be great.
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
Good.
I mean, really quickly, if I could, I would just share how I got started in the program. So 2007, 2008, I went through a situation in my life where I found myself as a single father raising 3 kids, and my son was in when my son was in 3rd grade, he was exposed to a mentor by the name of Mr. Garcia, and Mr. Garcia helped him. He was very behind in his reading. And Mr. Garcia in 1 year took him from a 1st grade reading level to a 5th grade reading level. And so that was my initial involvement. And from my understanding later on, Mr. Garcia, Colin was, I think, the only student or the only year that he was able to help, and made such a huge impact in my son's life that in 2014, when I came on staff full time as a youth pastor in the Basehor area, I called Tammy, and I know Tammy for a long time, and told her, I said, hey, I just want to get involved in however I can. And so in 2014, started serving in whatever capacity it was. And initially it was just in the high school and then in the middle school. And then, like she said, kind of spread out all over. And so since then, it's just been amazing to be able to give back and to make a difference in those kids' lives, like Mr. Garcia did for my son. And just, I just can't explain in words the joy that I have from the transformed lives that these kids are experiencing, just because of not just my involvement, but the mentor program as a whole, and the ability to come in and work with these students in the district. So.
And it is a full circle kind of program. I mean, you cannot help but talk to kids and they say, I have a mentor. And that is such a big thing. We've worked really hard to make it cool and keep it cool. And so as he goes from building to building, I hear the children's voices and they are like, hey, Howie, how are you doing? Hey, Howie. And that is wonderful, because at the high school level, when it's really very, it's challenging to get students to speak up and to say hello. I can tell you that you hear during our advisory time, especially if he walks through, he is reaching out to not just 1 or 2, but to dozens who have met him because he has been in every building and he has worked with kids in all academics, he's helped math, he's helped in English. Last year, can you tell them about how, as a mentor, you helped with the project of building What kind of dollhouse was it? It wasn't a dollhouse. What was it?
No, it was a playhouse project. So all the area schools in the Kansas City area are able through their construction classes in the high school to build a 6x6 playhouse project. And so the last 2 years, I went in and helped with my construction background, help these kids to build these playhouse projects. And for 2 years in a row, the playhouse projects go to Union Station in Kansas City, Missouri, and are entered into a competition. And so for 2 years in a row, the kids that we've worked with in that program, they have won that competition 2 straight years. So just an amazing time to be able to work with them. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. That is really cool. Now it gives me a reason to go visit that. So before we get into any of the questions, since we are a smaller group, I'd like everyone to have a chance to introduce themselves and say where they're from. So let's see. I don't want to pick on the newbie, but Christina, would you mind telling us who you are and where you're from?
Yeah, so I'm Christina Cook. I work at Big Brothers Big Sisters of Salina, and I do our site-based mentoring here.
Okay, wonderful. I was just there last Friday. Very cool. Feel free to jump in if you can.
I'm Debbie Clark, and I work for Big Brothers and Sisters in Kelly and Sumner counties, and I've been there for 29 years.
All right. Thank you for joining us, Debbie. Look forward to seeing you in person next week.
I'm Liz Pfeiffer. I am the new program manager for Butler County Foster Grandparents and RSVP.
Thank you.
I'm Lenore Enfield, and I'm with the Kansas Association for Conservation and Environmental Education, and I do the outreach and student engagement and our AmeriCorps program.
Wonderful.
I'm Amanda Otto, and I am also with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Salina.
Hi, Amanda.
Hey.
All right. So we got a little bit into the program out at Basehor-Linwood. Jim, would you like to share a bit about your program there in Council Grove?
Sure. One of the things about the community mentoring program in Council Grove is that we are unique. Used to be one of two, but now we are the only high school in the state of Kansas where every high school student has a mentor. And the way that we do that is that we recruit the mentors to meet with the students in a group of 1 mentor to 6 students. And they meet with the students for around 45 minutes to an hour once a month for 4 years. And for instance, on let's say the second Tuesday of the month, the freshmen, they would start meeting with the freshmen, and they would stay with those students for all 4 years on the second Tuesday of the month at the same table in the commons area. And all of the students are meeting in that freshman class in the commons area on that day and that time. The emphasis that we focus on is not so much on cognitive education as much as it is on relationship building and coming to understand one another and so on. First 2 years, we emphasize communication and team building because the kids are put in at random. And then on the junior and senior year, we start focusing on occupation, finances, and so on and so forth, even to the point of junior year teaching them how to make a budget and so on. So that's kind of where we are right now.
Very important life skills, yeah, that we're not actually really seeing in the classroom these days. So that's awesome. Tammy, did you want to jump in there?
Absolutely. Well, I've been a fan of Jim's for a very long time now because he is somebody who has rocked this program. How many total students do you guys have in your high school?
I want to say around 230.
That's awesome.
Smaller school, class 3A.
That's awesome. And I think that what he's done there is the unique part of it is that he has actually been the community connection for bringing the community into each classroom. And so the kids really get to know the people there in their community, and they get to know Jim really well for that. And I appreciate all that he's done. In our school district, we focus on the Youth Corps CareCat program, which is juniors and seniors in high school. And we have them think of this as an honors program, although it is not an honors program in that it is a limited space. It is one, though, that we want kids to elevate, you know, their headspace and to understand the importance of being exemplary role models. And so we place them with students preschool all the way through to senior year, and they work with our as peer mentors, and they work with them as academic support mentors or tutors. They focus on the social aspects, the emotional, you know, if a kid's having a bad day, and they connect that way. Our actual adult mentors, that's who is the top part of our program, because that's how we started. We started with our adult mentors so that we would recruit, you know, first and foremost to the adults in the community, and find out how they can come into the classroom 1 hour a week, and they can participate in that. They can either career shadow or they can work with them one-on-one. It could very well be just as simple as going into a kindergarten classroom and having 100 little teddy bear erasers and watching your volunteer work with a little, as the little says, 1 teddy bear, 2 teddy bears. And they are actually showing the mentor how high they can count. And that way that number is actually written down. And then the teacher pops over and says, all right, so you made it all the way to 72 today. You counted 72 teddy bears. And they go through the entire class like that. So that one mentor will connect with as many as, you know, however many children in the classroom. So from 18 to 28, it just depends. But you get an opportunity to connect one-on-one in a very short amount of time, in an hour. Or you can be that mentor who's like Howie, and you go into the middle school or the high school, and you're actually sitting down with a student and you're asking them how their day is going and what are they behind in, what are they working on, what have they been up to, do you have a new job? And it becomes a conversation, and you get to learn all about it. So for the roles that we play in our school district, I would say that our adults are our eyes and ears, and our CareCats, they become the kids that the littles want to all, they yearn to be. So they look up to them, and by the time they make it to high school, they will tell you how many CareCats they've had over the years and why they want to be a CareCat. So I've had little second and third graders say to me, you know, Mrs. Potts, I'm going to be a CareCat someday, you know, and they'll tell me their name so that I'll remember it. And I think that is the legacy of understanding the importance of anti-bullying and setting a great role model, and becoming a great role model. And I love the fact that you guys are from, I was writing down where you all are from, and I am really excited because you have a perspective of the connection that needs to happen between the relationships. And I think that's what we're lacking anymore in our communities. We have people who social media has maybe taken away the art of the conversation. And so they're hungering to connect. And that's why your programs are vital. And I hope that you're able to inspire adults to sign up and to be a part of your program, because ultimately the success of it comes down to people who are really committed to doing what you do. So.
Right.
Like
And I
Jim
think
and
that kind of leads into some, and by the way, anyone who, feel free to raise a hand or unmute yourself if you feel like you have a question or want to join in the conversation, because this is what this platform is all about today. So I sent in questions to you guys to look at and think about. How you didn't get the opportunity to see them, but like she said, I'm sure you'll do just fine. I'm wondering, because I'm a novice when it comes to this type of work, are there any common misconceptions, differences, or similarities in how school-based versus site-based programs operate.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely think so. What do you think, Jim? Do you, is yours basically, you're all school-based, right?
Totally.
You're totally.
Yeah, totally school-based. And the only time we're out of school is when December, we take the kids caroling to the senior citizen centers and things like that. But we start at the school and end at the school. And the
I
school
love
provides
that.
transportation.
I want pictures one of these days, okay?
We'll see if
Have
I
you ever
can get
seen-
them. Yeah.
Yeah, please do. We are school-based, so everything happens here on school grounds during school hours, but there are exceptions where we will move a mentoring match to the library over at the Basehor Community Library or the Linwood Library. And we do that as an exception. So I do additional paperwork with the parent and or guardian, and I have the mentor, and it's an adult that usually meets there one-on-one, working with them on math or English. And CareCats, we also have, our high school kids who are, they do really well in math. And so if you have a kid who's struggling in middle school, I will talk with the parent of the middle schooler and say, hi, can you meet Sally over at the library? And this is going to be her time that she'll be there. And sometimes, we will do that, but we track it. So it's not just an open-ended thing. It's more of a very focused and very directed. So people all understand what's going on if it is off the school grounds.
So there's an extra layer added for just making sure permissions are given and things of that nature when it comes to taking it off of the school grounds.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
see,
Absolutely.
one of the things, we don't leave the school, but we invite the community to come into the school. For instance, in a couple of months for the seniors, we will have had the seniors, each one fill out a survey of what they are hoping to learn more about a particular occupation. And we take their first choice and bring in someone, and then they're scattered throughout the commons area. And sometimes there's a group of 1 or 2 talking to a professional. Sometimes there's a group of 15 or 20 talking to a professional, and they range all the way from agriculture and agribusiness to medical, to welding, to whatever the student is interested in. And unless they get into something like oceanography or something along that line, we generally are able to come up with a professional that they can talk to.
I think that's kind of the common denominator. I think that most school districts will see the value in their career mentors very quickly. And especially with, if you have innovative programs where you have internships or you have work study involved, and you have your seniors who are tracking what they want to do after graduation and how they want to start their college career. There's so many different ways to do that. And so we have career mentors, and that's a very focused area that we've done. And I think that it kind of comes down to the match. So looking at what the child is actually needing to get excited about, what their interests are. And so that initial, the meeting of exactly how do you want it to work? That is really, vital. I like, so I saw Big Brothers and Big Sisters is on here. I think that school-based, I love the fact that you all do what you do. And what you'll find is that school-based, where we have the adults with the littles, or if we have our high school kids with the littles, what you find is there will be opportunities like when the high school kid is playing a football game. I'm telling you that CareCat has their own little cheerleading crowd out in the football stands, because all those children, I mean, when they walk in the building and they got their Letterman's jacket on, that completely is, you can't buy that kind of excitement. It is phenomenal. And it's like that for really, truly our high school kids, because they're walking in and they are creating almost their own little buzz of success. So you have kids who grow up who want to be like them. It's like that with mentors too. So people like Howie who come into the building and they're open, they're fun. And Howie, he participates in wrestling as well. I mean, Howie, can you tell them about how your connections, the activities that you participate in here as well, and do that through our school district, participation as well. So Howie, can you tell them about that?
Yeah, I was gonna try to jump in there because for me, I'm a very relational person. So when it comes to like all the things that we do in the school, as far as the family is concerned, I will be involved in the family's lives as much as as much as they're open to that. And so what that means most times is where that starts is, with sports and with extracurricular activities, whether that's, baseball, football, basketball, soccer, or, playing violin or singing or whatever that is. I myself or my wife goes with us usually. If she's not teaching her Zumba classes and workout things, she'll go as well. And we'll attend as many of those activities as we possibly can so that we're involved in the kids' lives in the community beyond the school. So it is, yes, school-based, but as well seeking as many opportunities as possible to really connect with them in a way, because there's nothing more like a kid on the baseball fields looking out and seeing the mentor, somebody that just showed up to their game that doesn't have a kid there themselves, or even the parents, the response. I've had parents come up and say, who are you here to watch? And I'll tell them, and they say, you don't have a kid here. And so I'm like, no, all of our kids are adults. Our youngest is 21, our oldest is 27. And so, but we're here because, we want to invest in the kids' lives. And so that's huge. And the kids, the kids are there, but you also have an hour to 2 hours where you can speak one-on-one to a parent who won't return your call to talk to you about things that are going on at school, right? Like they're saying, you call and leave a message like, hey, I'd like to talk to you about the math assignments that your kids are missing. But then when you're at the football game or the basketball game or orchestra or whatever afterwards, you have those opportunities to really connect with those parents and let them know that, hey, we're on the same side, and they understand that, their kid's safe around you. You love their child like they love their child. And it just really, really opens the doors for all of those things. And so I also seek opportunities like, we talked about the building projects before, like in another school district, which doesn't have a mentor program here locally, it's Bonner Springs. There's a principal there that actually reaches out and has me help with every senior has to do a senior project there to graduate. And so I will usually work with 2 or 3 of those seniors each year on little building projects or just whatever they want to get, like a little like sports camp together. And so I just help them with those as well. And so, yeah, it's amazing.
So you're really able to use your own personal skills and talents in a way that enhances and elevates the students' learning. I mean, that's really awesome.
Yeah, and even to the point where, so I was a truck driver and I was operations manager for a trucking company for 17 years before I became a youth pastor. And so even in that, there are some kids in the high school that stress interest in wanting to be a truck driver. So I will actually sit down and go through the manual with them to learn and to teach them the things out of the book that they need to do, and then kind of work through some skills and things with that as well. So yeah, it's just a vast opportunities to just make yourself available and connect however you can connect.
Right. Well, this kind of segues. Oh, you go ahead, Tammy.
Well, I just wanted to, so our paperwork reflects that. So I have parent permissions that I do with every single one of our students so that we have, so they know who Howie is and they know that he is the mentor. And I do that with each one of our mentors. So the parent could reach out. When we have the relationship building part is huge. And so we don't want them to feel like, well, my child has a mentor, but I can't have that conversation with them. Instead, we really encourage it because it's more well-rounded. And that way, then the mentor can say, well, you know what? So-and-so has been out of school for a few days because I got a phone call from his mom and she told me this. So, I know what to expect or not to expect. And Howie is completely right. They will be so forthcoming when they see you out there and you're attending things and you're promoting their child in a way that, they know that they can count on you and that there is a trustworthy situation. And when it's site-based, it's always the activities, that are here with school. And you'll see that from everything from parent-teacher conferences where I've had mentors actually attend with parent teachers and the student. And that is completely acceptable. And I encourage, there's a value in that open conversation, as long as the mentor's not, where if the parent said something in confidence or if the child said something in confidence. But other than that, we encourage the relationship building process because that will ultimately determine the success of the relationship. And our goal is to get a child to graduation. Absolutely, that is the number one goal, and to make them feel supported in doing that.
Tammy, I've got a question for you. On your high school mentors or the Care Bears that reach down into the lower grades, are their mentees at-risk kids or having problems and issues?
Okay, so our big connection is we want every child who has an adult mentor, we want them to want the mentor. If a child, doesn't matter what age, does not see the value in it, we don't force it, because ultimately that will be what determines if something can fail. Our CareCats will, so when they go to work with a student, the student, again, in reaching out, you can see the kids who are really open to having that extra help. And when you say high risk, I kind of like to reverse it and say, every child is a high need child. So there are different things that we have needs for, there's a lot of the obvious changes like mom and dad are splitting up or, a death in the family. There are so many different things that a child has to deal with regardless of the age. And so high risk for me are the behaviors that the school district will determine, someone who is a professional who would work with a high risk behavior. And if the student would be open to a mentor in a small role, for instance, we had one young man who did not like to go to the lunchroom ever. They could not pay him money to go sit in the lunchroom. But I had one of my seniors who, he was really outgoing, but he wasn't that outgoing. So he would go down there and he would go down to her classroom, and he made a point. He would, pick him up, say, "Hey, I'm here, let's go to lunch." And he was like, "I really don't want to do this." And so in the beginning, my CareCat would say, "We don't have to. We can sit right here. I'll bring my peanut butter jelly and we'll just sit right here and talk." And then it became they moved to the hallway, which was right outside the lunchroom. And they sat on the little couch and they had their peanut butter and jellies out on the couch. And that worked for, I don't know, it was a couple of weeks. And then pretty soon I went into our huge gymnasium where they have all the lunchroom tables all set up. It's actually our older gymnasium. And there was a student who would never go into the cafeteria. And guess who was sitting right next to him at his elbow? And they're having their peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and they were fine. Now, there was nobody else at their table because he wasn't ready for that. It took another month before they actually were allowed to have a guest come to the table. Something that student had initiated. And that is the ultimate goal, is that the student owns it and buys into the whole relationship, and then pretty soon sees the kid, not as a CareCat, but as a friend, someone who got to know him and listen to him. And I think that those kind of examples play out all over our school district, in elementary buildings, in the middle school, those can be really extreme tough years.
Right. One of the interesting things about it with, I think with all the volunteers, but it's a hard concept for kids to grasp onto, and even in the high school realm. And yet I don't mention this as much publicly, but the concept is over the next 4 years, or the 4 years of a student's high school career, the mentors are the only people that they're going to see on a regular basis for all 4 years who aren't paid to be there. They're not paid to care. They're there because they care. And it finally sinks in with them, and there's a joy and a, hey, what makes you so special? What makes us so special that you would come? And I remember I asked the mentors to ask their groups this year just some things about mentoring, the mentoring time. One freshman kid told his mentor, said, you know, this is, and he doesn't talk that much, but he said, this is about the only place where I feel that you all really listen to what I want to say. And he felt like he was heard. And that's great. And I had a senior who was popular, who was a athlete, letterman in all sorts of sports and things along this line. And he told his mother, you know, mentoring is about the only place where I can really relax and don't feel like I'm expected to perform. And you know, that that says a lot for the kids and for the program.
Absolutely.
Love that. I love that.
Well, if you don't mind, I kind of have a question leaning into what you just said, Jim, for Howie. So over the course of your experience in mentoring, what's one thing that you have learned about this that you were not expecting to learn?
One thing I was not expecting to learn.
Yeah.
Probably, oh, let's see here. In working with so many kids, I think along what Jim was talking about there is the fact that some of these kids, the way that they would respond, and like you said, why am I so special? Why are you here to see me? Right? The fact that number one, you have kids that because the way I grew up, we were loved, we were cared for. You know, our parents. I mean, we all had all of our families have struggles, but I know for a fact that both my parents loved me. Both my parents wanted me, desired, and so even in school to be able to be successful. And some of these kids just were so far one direction to feel like they didn't matter. Nobody cared about them. Even the point of, I believe it was probably my first high school student that I worked with. It was about a month into working with him, and he said, you know, I see you interacting with other kids in the hallways, and so many kids know you. Why me? Why do I matter? And so I think that's probably one of the most eye-opening things to me was to see so many kids that, because it's not just him, but so many kids that feel as though they're a nobody, they're a nothing, nobody cares. That why would anybody waste any time to spend time with them? And so that was, you know, again, something else to drive home that relational piece of that to really get to the bottom of all of that, what's going on. Because ultimately, once we got past that, you know, he was willing and open to hear the things that I was saying, the challenges that needed to happen, the beginning to do some of the school work. And, you know, he still struggled with a lot of things, but that was really the opening to all of that. And so that's probably for me, you know, to see that so many were just felt like they were in that spot in their life and needed to get past it.
Absolutely. Well, kind of want to shift gears a little bit and talk about what you guys, you, Jim, and Tammy have done to make sure that your program has become as successful as it is. Things that you've learned and had to maybe redo or rethink.
Yeah, I think the rethink, I think that's something that is an ongoing perspective about any program. So for us, our success is based on listening. So not only listening to the feedback that we get from our adult mentors, who will tell you in a heartbeat if something's not working or if something is working, and keys to making it better. And we're constantly looking for ways to keep elevating what we're doing. You can always do it better. There's room for improvement on every level. From our perspective of the teachers, so our teachers are our classroom mentors for our high school CareCats, but they're also, you know, the conduit for making sure that the adult mentor match is successful, because they will connect. I mean, they're the first person, you know, they might pull aside the mentor coming in the door. Hey, Bobby's having a hard day today. So I've sent Bobby over to the library, you know, right down the hall. It's struggling today on maybe it's reading or maybe it's math. Those kind of conversations, that requires teacher buy-in. And in a school-based program, that's vital. So if you have your teacher buy-in and you have your admin buy-in and you have everybody on board with understanding that this relationship is important, that is something that we need to keep revisiting on a daily basis, because when people disconnect and they stop believing that they matter or that they don't know if they made a difference, that's where a program is failing. And sometimes it can be just as simple as a word. So the word mentor, the word mentoring, some people are more comfortable with tutoring. Some people are more, you know, comfortable with friend. It all depends on how you want to reach out to the community and bring them into that classroom. And so school-based mentoring really takes on a whole new look when we're not only listening to the children who are going to be mentored, you know, they want to know when you're going to be late. They want to know, because they're paying attention to the clock. They know exactly what time it is. And if you were 5 minutes late, they're going to tell you. My CareCat high school kids, oh my goodness, if they show up and they hit that door, even if it's a minute beyond what those kids are expecting, they let them know. But that's part of their that ongoing relationship. The adults who get to come in, that can be everything from, I have one relationship, one of my retired school teachers, which a lot of retired school teachers come back to school-based mentoring very, very quickly because they miss it. They miss the relationships. But then we also have a really growing population of grandparents. And, you know, as you know, that all changes, the baby boomer, you know, that generation all pops through, all of that plays out. So the numbers are improving again, and you have people in the classroom and they're wanting to be a huge part of it. But the one gal that I have over at the intermediate, what I love about how she does, she will sit down. We tell them you don't have to prepare in advance for this one-on-one classroom relationship. But you know what she does? She will email the teacher and she will say, hi, what are you working on this week? Is there anything fun that I can help with? Is there an activity I can do with the boys? And because she works with 2 children who are, you know, extremely engaged, and that activity level, that's a high. So she will make a point to gear what she's deciding to do in that 1 hour of time. And she will include exactly what the teacher wants, but then she's going to take it up an extra notch. And so that's kind of what we see often in our mentors, is that they take a look at it. And it's not just, I'm going to go in and have a conversation. It becomes, how do I make things easier? How do I make things more fun?
Right.
And
It's like more holistic, or seems to be more of like a wraparound sort of technique where everyone's engaged in the success of the students.
I like that word. A wraparound, absolutely. Goes full circle.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that helps to keep our program going is that first of all, that the mentors, really, it's so empowering to them when they're walking down the street and they see one of their mentees and they greet them and they know who they are. And because they're not with them that much in that first year, just once a month. but it's a cumulative effect. And it means so much to them, and they find themselves starting to care for the kids. And that's one of the surprises, I think, is they're learning how much they care for people that they didn't even know 6 months ago. And then one of the things that helps us is be enthusiastic about what we're doing, looking forward to meeting the kids. It's strange. We don't tell them they have to, but it means so much to the kids that even though we meet right after lunch, they still take snacks. And the kids, if the mentor misses bringing snacks, the kids kind of let them know that we don't get anything today, and then you have to have for a school-based program, you have to have administrative support. And our administration has been very, very supportive of us, to the point that just the other day, I had 4,000 pages of copying that had to be done. And the principal gave me his key, or not the key, but his code to use the copy machine, because everyone has their own code and I'm not paid. And this is probably one of the things too, probably in a couple of years, it'll be time for me to step down. But all the way down, every one of us in our mentoring program are volunteers, from me all the way through. And so we aren't paid to care. We just care because we're there. And I think that helps to keep it going. The community recognizes that there's a value in it. And of course, I'm always recruiting, even though it's maybe not recruiting season. I'll be talking about, hey, you want to be a mentor next year, and things along that line. And they know that it'll be a 4-year commitment, but they want to stay with it because they see a value in it. And so that's some of my things. Go ahead, Tammy.
I love that. So do you have your little elevator speech? When you're out and about, did you have your little speech that you spiel so to do recruitment? Because I find myself all the time saying, are you usually up here at this time? Do you have like an hour? What is your time? Do you do that?
Well, yeah, I do it, but I don't go with that way. I recruited a new mentor this year who runs a new business in town. And my wife was looking over the materials and so on. And I got to chatting with her and said, are you interested in learning about the mentoring program? Well, what's that? And I get the opportunity to talk to him about it and give the constraints. And this one said, yeah, that sounds really interesting. I'd like to know more. How do I go about doing it? And so on. But you always have to be, if you're excited about something, it's going to continue. And it's not just a superficial emotional excitement. It's because you recognize the value of what's taking place. And then to hear the kids say, well, they see me even at the grocery, or the other day I was at the grocery store, and one of the guys said, are you still running the mentoring program? And I'll see him during the school. What are we doing next week?
Right. Well, you alluded to a topic of even just mentoring and how do you approach someone, and maybe just the term mentor could be a little intimidating. So I know you've talked about tutoring, coaching, friendships. So how do you all define mentoring, and how do you describe it to someone who may not be as comfortable with that term and trying to get them on board?
Well, if I could jump in.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if you don't mind. I like people. I really like people. And for me, it comes down to, if you can get one person to connect with another person on whatever level it is, but you have to find out where their joy is. And once you find out where the joy is, that's where you meet. That's where the relationship begins. because you have to find out first, where is it that they really enjoy connecting? And that's when you get those kindergarten moms who are so sad because their little ones are now in kindergarten and may have a bit of time on their hands. And so they'll enter as mentors, and we'll have them work one-on-one. Sometimes they're allowed, so it depends. Here in our district, we have in school-based mentoring, you find that each principal for each different building has their own preferences. And so some buildings will have a parent, mentor in the classroom if it's at the teacher's discretion. There are times when a parent, who mentors in a classroom like that would be a distraction. And so, and for that, we, have them mentor with a child in another classroom. And that's an opportunity to find out exactly where their skills are, where their joys are, and how they can connect in a way that that will keep them long-term in our school district. So a kindergarten mom may stay with us all the way through to senior year for that reason. And then after that, when they become empty nesters, they come back.
Mhm. We are, like I said, we're not cognitive educational people. We're relationship based. And I think some of the things that help us, that I describe mentoring, is not the greater to the lesser concept, but more of a, we're in this together. I like the ABCs of mentoring for me is, first of all, available. Be available, just to listen. And then believe in the potential of your mentees, that they are people of promise. They are people who can make it. And then be consistent. That's so crucial. Tammy mentioned about if you're a minute late, they know what kids respond. And they know if you don't make it. And they recognize that you don't get paid, but the concept is to be consistent. I tell our mentors when we do training that you can pretend to care, but you can't pretend to be there. And that makes a difference.
If you don't mind, if I could jump in for just a second again, maybe to tie two of your questions together in an answer and kind of highlight on what you're talking about right now with what it's called and how kids respond to that and how teachers respond to that. One of the things that I've had to learn, in making changes in the way that I do mentoring is that one of the young men that I started with when he was in third grade, it was just cognitive. It was, he was not able to pass his multiplication tables. And so it was every week I was there to help him get past that for that goal, right? And so I just approached it in that manner. And so each year after that, as we met, it was really, really cognitive. I mean, we met for other things, and actually his dad is a really close friend of mine now, and I coach his brother in high school wrestling now as well. So there are pieces of that. But once he got to high school, going into his freshman year, he said, "I no longer want you to mentor me." And that was a little disturbing, upsetting maybe a little bit. But his reasoning was that I don't want to be seen as the kid that's dumb and needs you to come and help me anymore.
Mhm.
And so maybe that's a failure on my part, or, be able to look back and see how could I have approached that differently. And we're still really close friends, but he just doesn't want that piece of it. He doesn't want to be seen walking the hallway with the guy that has to be there, help him do his schoolwork, because he is capable to do it on his own now. He has made those advances in his own education. So, so that was kind of eye-opening to me as well, and how you approach what you call, how you look at the whole relationship piece, because he doesn't look at himself as stupid, but at the same time, on the outside, things that kids say, well, you need Howie to come and help you with your schoolwork because you're failing. Well, he wasn't failing at that point, but that's the way that it was viewed. And so, just to be cognitive of all of those things.
And I have learned that there is a misconception that mentoring is for a specific population of students or youth, and that's not true. Every youth, everybody could benefit from a mentor relationship.
And that's one of the benefits of our program, is that every student has to be in a mentoring group. It's the whole class. And so everyone is, everyone's mentored.
Well, if I could jump in on this one, because, and I realize our time's getting short, but like what Howie's saying, a child would much more prefer to be seen as bad than to be seen as unable to complete something. So at test time, you will see kids walk out of the classroom, and that's when they'll have a tantrum. That's when they'll have the meltdown. It's not because they truly are bad, but they do feel. I hear that word stupid. I do hear it often from kids who feel like they can't complete something and they need help and they don't want to reach out. They really don't want to reach out. And so they would much rather quit. And that is something that you have to have a mentor to intervene. And that's why we're a great intervention tool for that perspective. So, and that's a conversation. It's an ongoing conversation because you have to keep your programs cool, and you have to, unfortunately, that's why some matches end and you just transition and you move to the next one, and you just, it's got to fit for the mentee. The mentee has to enjoy it, has to buy in. It's time to, move on.
Well, as Tammy mentioned, we are running up to our time here today. Did anyone have any questions or additional thoughts for our speakers today?
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you guys for
All
having me.
right. Thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing.
Yes. Have a good day, everyone. And I look forward to our next one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.